Real talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Humans Talking podcast. I am FRENO, and I'm joined here with Brylon, who's finally back this week. What's up, man?
Oh man, not much. I was a little break. Sorry I couldn't make it last week, but yeah,
Taking care of
good
some
time.
things. Did you get a
Yep,
chance to hear the solo cast that I did?
I did. It was really, really interesting. You managed to hold your own. I appreciate the shout out. But
There was a void when you were gone, but
it was
yeah,
like, fuck, I gotta talk for 2 hours
I
or
like
whatever.
I'm like I got to do this for an hour. Jeez, it was interesting to say the least. It was out of my comfort zone, so it was a very interesting thing to attempt. I don't know how well it did with the fan base, if there even is one. But
How do you feel about it? You think you can think you'll continue on once I die?
oh
Just
man, you were not
talking
gonna
into the
die.
void.
Into the void. How is this guy I used to do stuff with? I'm thinking of that comic Hulk, The End, where literally like all of humanity died. It was just Bruce Banner and slash the Hulk. And
Uh-huh.
eventually Bruce Banner got old and he died. And the Hulk was just like there was some good dichotomy between them because the Hulk's like, man, I can't wait till you die so I can just like be by myself finally. I can finally be free. And that's pretty much how like the comic ended. Like Bruce Banner eventually died of old age, and the Hulk came out, and he's just like, "Cool, it's just me. No one's on Earth, and it's just silence." I like to imagine he felt it was kind of bittersweet because the Hulk finally got what he wanted, but now it's just like there's no one left on Earth, so it's kind of lonely. But it's just how the
So
comic
that
ended.
so that's how you'll probably feel when I
Yeah, if I
when
could
I'm gone.
transcend space and time and outlive every human on Earth, that
All right.
that would suck to be like the last person on Earth.
Yeah, well, I don't know. These days, I wouldn't mind it quite as much.
I mean, how long do you think you could last before you were like, all right, I'm gonna make a what is it, Wilson from Castaway?
Oh, I would do that like day one.
Take away, like, oh god.
Yeah, and then I mean, I would still have my cats, and I would go around and like find all the pets that I recognize from like friends, and then make a little zoo, and then I'd have people to talk to. So I guess I wouldn't need a Wilson, you know.
Would you travel with your animal companions? Because now that it's just animals on the earth, essentially, you're gone. They're gonna do their own thing. They're gonna migrate and travel. Are you just gonna follow them around? You're gonna try to make them stay at a home base?
No, I mean my cats were declawed prior to us adopting them, so like I don't really think they can do much without protection. So they would have to follow me around. Maybe I get like a long leash for them, like a little uh, backpack strap thing, whatever the hell they're called, harness.
So, say you're the last man on Earth, and you can just do whatever at this point. What is the one like dream animal companion you would love to have in your travels if you could
And
like make it happen somehow?
an animal companion, so that means I would have to train it and everything.
I mean, you got nothing else to do. You're the last man on Earth.
Well, I wouldn't really know how. I'm trying to do. Does it have to be like realistic? Like
I mean,
because of
if
where I live?
if you want to say tiger, I mean, if you were somehow able to get a hold of one for wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, there's not any good zoos near me. And they're just like ostriches and squirrels and shit. I don't
Yeah.
know. I really don't. Maybe I would train. It'd be kind of fun to have a raccoon. We have a lot of those living at my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, we've got a
You could
bunch
have
of
it.
those out here.
So anytime I needed like someone to or some like there's something hard to reach, I can't reach it, or something needs to be unlocked for a door, I can have a raccoon go and do it as if it's a video game and knows exactly what I want it to do.
Would you want like a little posse of like raccoons?
No, that's too much. Just one.
I don't know, man. I don't know how much you could do with just one. I mean, because they like to kind of roam in packs and whatnot. But
I thought we had them trained. I thought
yeah,
that was
I mean, you could probably train quite a few of them. Have like a whole like army going.
Nah, I'm not that greedy. I mean,
Greedy.
they can live their lives. Well, what about you?
I don't really know what like dream animal I would want to have as a companion. I mean, because I know a lot of people think like, oh man, a tiger would be awesome, but it's like, man, it would probably just kill my ass and eat me unless I was able
Yeah.
to like provide a lot of meat for it. So like, what's a cool animal to? I wouldn't want to roll with a bear. Same issue. They just eat my ass.
Hmm. I mean, d- I feel like they have to be kind of close to where you are, like realistic to your region.
Yeah, it's like who
At
would be
least the first one.
who would be cool to hang out with? Because I feel like a tortoise would just be. They're big, but it's like, what are they gonna do? Just be slow all day? A
They can be
snake,
fast.
a snake would eventually eat me, so that couldn't work. Um, yeah, a snake would just size me up. And it's like, all right, I'm just gonna stretch out and wait till you fall asleep and eat your ass.
Okay, so I was thinking these are like Pokemon rules,
Yeah,
where it's like, okay,
it's like a
I've got this
realistic
animal.
setting. Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm the last man on Earth. I have this mystery animal that I have to like train and like be a companion with, or not even train. It's just like, hey, we're both coexisting in this habitat, and like, and we have like a respect for each other because we're not threatening to each other.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what animal would that be that wouldn't at least attempt to kill me?
I mean, you could get like a deer or a horse, which I feel like is pretty basic, or an
Yeah.
ostrich, possum.
Do you?
I'm just
Ooh. What about this?
looking.
Do you think a wolf would work? I don't know if it
I
would.
mean,
I don't know if it would attempt to kill me because it would go hunt its own thing. I feel like that would be easier to kind of befriend somewhat.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna say yeah, that'll work.
I'm just saying, thinking of
It's possible
yeah,
if you have enough treats.
yeah. It's like, hey man, we're out here hunting rabbits together. Fuck it, we'll share. I'll give you some. We're cool. We're not threatening.
Yeah, I probably should have picked something like that. That would protect my ass. 'Cause
Or at least not attempt to kill you. It's like, look, man, I can go get my own rabbits. I'm not worried about you.
yeah, that's a good one. That's probably a better pick than
Like,
raccoons. But
you know what's funny? Like
what?
monkeys, chimpanzees, gorillas, any of the ape-like creatures would be fun to have as a companion, but they're like the number one thing that would 100% kill you.
You think so?
Chimpanzees are fucking insane, bro. They will murder your ass on the spot. They're like, I know they look friendly in movies, but they are like super violent, like, and have mood swings. So they can be cool 1 minute and then just snap and start beating the shit out of you. It's
Oh man, I'm used to that because of cat. Cats are like that.
well, cats, you're bigger than them, so you're just like, all right, fuck off, man, just whatever. But like any of those apes are like 3 times your strength and just knock you around. It's like, dude, why are you messing with me?
Yeah.
Uh, good stuff. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I did have it. You know, I'm glad that you're here because you could probably like clear this up for me. So, horror movies. Yeah, I know you're kind of an expert in this field, so maybe you can kind of clear it up for me. I watched Terrifier 2 last week.
Oh, cool.
I know
I
you
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
it.
those, but
Yeah.
yeah. And this one was a lot more violent than the first one, I would say. It left me a bit confused. Um, do you plan on watching Terrifier at some point?
Yeah, we actually tried to watch it on Halloween, but for some reason it wouldn't work on my Amazon Prime, so
So maybe I should
it's
pick,
on the list.
maybe I should pick another movie, but it kind of it was leaving me with some questions because I'm a logical person, so I like to think about things and kind of dissect things and see where they go. But the way the first movie ended, I'm just like, okay, cool. And now, you know, all these years later, here's the second movie, and I'm like, oh, cool, we got a second one. You know, he's back doing his murder thing, and I was trying to figure out like, okay, why is he here? How did he come back? Um, and that was my initial thought. Like that seems like a fair question for those types of movies. You're like, okay, the first one ended, so what's happening here in the second? I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
that's a fair assumption. But the entire film, I was bumping along like, okay, cool, he's murdering people. Are you going to answer my question of like, why is he here? What, like, how is this working right now? And it never got answered. And for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I'm like trying to follow along with the scares and the murder, but I was constantly plagued with questions, from the first film. And I was like, are y'all gonna answer this? And I noticed that this is kind of a trend with horror films. Like they'll bring in this movie, you'll have some questions, and you're intrigued because you want to see where the story goes, but at the same time, you also want your questions answered. So for me, Terrifier 2 was a great film. I didn't get sick and pass out, like some people did. I was hearing reports like some people in theaters were passing out and throwing up because it was too much. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just desensitized. It wasn't that bad for me. But it did take away my enjoyment of the film as a whole because I was constantly thinking like, okay, questions, answers, and I wasn't getting them. And for me personally, that kind of took away, I guess, from the enjoyment I would have had if I wasn't worried about these questions. So is this like a normal, I'm kind of, because I'm noticing like other horror films, it's kind of a normal thing I'm noticing because I just saw Barbarian too. And that, that was enjoyable, but at the same time, I had questions that weren't answered. So it was kind of, I'm like,
Really? I felt like Barbarian wrapped it up pretty neatly.
It did, but there were also a couple plot holes. I'm like, okay, well, what about like everything else? Like, I don't want to spoil Barbarian, so I don't want to go into it. But I'm just like, I was left with questions. I was like, okay, if this is true, shouldn't there be like a bunch of others as well? Like, so I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So whatever. But
yeah, we can talk about that one later.
Yeah,
but I have an answer for you.
But I'm starting to notice, I'm kind of backtracking horror films I've watched. And I'm like, is this normal just to have a bunch of like unanswered questions? Is that like part of the formula of horror movies?
Yes. I mean, I feel like the nuances and the small minor, plot,
Plot
contrivances. Sure, plot holes, yeah. That's just part of it. Because the reality is, like, Friday the 13th, how many times can Jason die and then come back? Like, they have to bring him back. That's the whole point. And, right. I mean, if you want to look at plot holes, anytime the murderer dies, and comes back to life, that's a plot hole because half the time it's really explained poorly, Yeah. So you just have to. I feel like most horror has like a quite a bit of sci-fi / fantasy element to it, and a lot of times you're sacrificing, especially a movie like a slasher film like Terrifier or whatever. You're sacrificing plot for action,
Just straight murder and mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what those types of movies are. It's like you're watching probably like Mission Impossible or Casino Royale or something. Those are probably poor examples, but like a good action movie that it's all about the action and the plot isn't necessarily terrible, but like you're just gonna have to allow for some conveniences, I suppose.
So,
but to answer your question,
well, yeah. What's your answer?
The answer to your question as to why he came back after whatever happened in the first film is they got a bigger budget. It did well.
Maybe I'm being too abstract. It's just like, am I just personally watching horror movies wrong? Like, am I supposed to treat movies like, and I don't want to sound like mean, but should I just treat it like any other like blockbuster nonsense action movie and just turn my brain off and just watch people just get murdered? Like, is that how I'm supposed to watch horror movies, or am I supposed to like try to get involved with a story and a plot?
I think it depends on the type of movie, and you kind of have to feel that out. I mean, I feel like there's a reason why horror movies in particular generally have really diverse critical reception, So you have like the quote unquote elevated horror movies like Hereditary or whatever that are the plot is what causes the horror. Like it's more about what's happening to these characters as individuals or whatever, family drama, and the horror develops from that. But a movie like Terrifier or Halloween or Friday the 13th or whatever, all of those slashers, it's not about, those are roller coasters. Those are like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you will, of horror, where you have your Captain America, you have your main character, hero character, whatever, Captain America, Freddy Krueger, Iron Man is, Michael Myers, and they go through the whole movie, and you're not there to see anything happen other than, Robert Downey Jr. be a badass as Iron Man, or Michael Myers kill a bunch of people in the way that Michael Myers kills people.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's generally their franchise characters that the characters around them are just really not, and the plot around it isn't really that interesting. There's a reason why Halloween has been around for a million years, whatever it was, 20, 25 years, right?
Yeah.
And they kept making those movies, and if you talk to anyone, they're all terrible movies, but if you probably look at their box office numbers, they're way higher. It's a Fast and Furious situation where it's like, we understand that we're there to watch Michael Myers and Vin Diesel fuck shit up, and everything around that, you just have to be like, all right.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt.
Whatever gets them to the next kill.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for me because it's like, I don't, unless I do extensive research, which, to an extent can ruin a movie, to know beforehand which type of horror movie is, because they kind of fall into two different genres, right? They fall into the logical, stick with it, it's all going to come together in the end and it's going to blow your mind, to the, hey, this is just senseless murder, just have fun to watch Michael Myers just kill a bunch of people. To not know that beforehand is kind of what hinders me, because I'm like, I kind of want to know what to prepare for, but I don't want to like spoil like any like plot or anything like that. Because with a movie like Hereditary, I can go in and be myself. I can be logical and be like, oh my God, where is this going? There's weird stuff happening. And then as it all comes together in the end and you're like, oh man, that's insane. I can't believe this happened. But it all comes together. Then you've got like a horror movie where it's just like Terrifier, where it's like, all right, turn your brain off. He's just murdering people. There's not much of a plot. Try not to think too much into it. Just go in and have fun.
I mean, did the first one have much of a plot though? I never watched it, but it seemed like it was pretty much just like, hey, this clown's killing people in the worst ways.
Yeah, and it was pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
Until the end, where then it delves into the supernatural. So it's like, okay, wait a minute. We're going from like a realistic scenario to like, okay, this is like a supernatural thing, kind of. And then it's like never explained. So it's just back to just mindless murder again. So it just kind of, maybe some people like that. It kind of threw me off. Because then you've got like Michael Myers, the first Halloween movie, great film. But it eventually turns into the supernatural, because it's like, hey, he isn't just some regular guy killing people. He's like a force of nature who keeps, like the Undertaker, he keeps getting up. That's what's fun about Michael Myers. You're like, oh my God, they finally got him. But it's like, nope, he got up again. It's like, oh shit, like nothing can take this guy down. Hence the supernatural element. But
I feel like most horror movie franchise, like you can usually tell because it has the villain character front and center in, on the cover or the logo of something, So you have like Terrifier. The only person on the poster is probably the final girl and the clown itself. And then the second poster is just a clown. That's how you can kind of tell. But I also feel like if they decide to take those, types of movies, the first one does great, and they decide to really carry on with the franchise character, make it a franchise, they have to go into the supernatural at some point in order to make it make sense in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because it's realistic, but it's like, how many times are we going to kill this person, Like, I think Jason eventually became a zombie, a supernatural entity in the, whatever it was, the sixth movie. because they're like, okay, we can't kill this guy that many more times
Yeah.
without it making sense. Same
Right.
with
And that's what happens with
yeah,
sequels.
yeah. They did well, I mean, that started to happen with the Michael Myers movies. Did you see the last one? I watched that one recently.
Halloween Ends?
Yeah.
No, I saw the second one, Halloween Kills. I know you said you weren't really a fan of that one. When I read reviews, it seems like a lot of people weren't really a fan of that one. For some reason, it didn't bother me, which is
Yeah.
strange. I mean, I guess because I watched it and I'm like, okay, I heard a lot of bad guff about this movie, and then I go into it, I'm like, okay, this is a little different. He kind of went off the
So
plot a little bit, but he was still going around killing people, and I guess this is all happening in the same night. So it's like, all right, it was fine, but I understand some of the gimmicks you were saying, like how they were chanting like "Evil dies tonight." To
it's kind of
me,
silly.
it well, it's a mob, so it made sense. It wasn't just like randomly like, "Hey, Evil dies tonight." It's like there was a point to it, like it was a mob mentality. And to
Yeah.
me, it's slowly built up because they didn't just like scream it the entire movie. They said it like once in the beginning and then like once in the middle. And then by the end, once the mob is like riled up, then they're all chanting it. So it was like a steady build up to that, quotes, if you find it silly or not, whatever. But to me, it was fine. It was just like, all right, cool. It wasn't like a great movie, but it wasn't like bad either. It was like, okay, cool. I don't really know
I'm
what people were expecting with the second film, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just kind of went in a weird direction. But that being said, I'm really curious to hear what you think about the new one because I loved it.
Really?
And
Okay,
it's
then.
it's even more of a deviation, and everyone hated this one.
That's so
Everyone.
strange. Yeah, but I mean, it shows you the different tastes and different interests people have and how people
Yeah.
perceive things. Because the masses didn't really like it, but then I thought it was okay, and now I'm gonna go into this third one, and I
I,
heard it wasn't as bad as the second one, which I thought was good.
I don't think you're gonna like it.
Really?
I I,
Okay,
I don't.
interesting. Now
I
I'm
think you're
intrigued to
gonna
watch Halloween Ends.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It reminded me, I could go into it later, but it reminded me of something they did in Friday the 13th in one of the movies, and I respected the hell out of it. I was talking to my girlfriend after we watched it, and I was like, it's like this, and like they think that it's paying like homage to this movie, but it's actually paying homage to this movie. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it. It was
Well,
definitely silly.
yeah, now I'm interested to watch it. Yeah, that's crazy how people can perceive things in just different ways. I mean, it sounds like it's one of those love it or hate it type of scenarios. I assume people are either going to love the ending or they're going to absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a divisive movie, and they could have done some stuff a little better for sure. But if their intention was to end the whole thing, with this movie, then I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. It was a very bold
Did
movie to
did
do.
they, in your opinion, did they achieve a conclusive ending for Laurie and Michael, or is it still open ended? Like, because I feel like with horror movies, they always want to try to keep it like going somehow, but it is the main story at least with Michael and Laurie over, or
I would
are they gonna try to set up another trilogy, which seems a little ridiculous at this point. They might as well go in another direction.
I would say that they do end that story. I
Okay.
do think, despite, I think there's a way to. Actually, I don't know if there's another trilogy that they could pivot into if they wanted to. It's hard to say. I feel like they could using what we were talking about earlier, the Halloween or not Halloween, the horror movie resurrection magic sort of
The
situation.
supernatural aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I'm sure that's a possibility that they could lean into because I feel like they touched on that in the middle movie Kills. But
Yeah, they did. I mean, they beat the shit out of him, and then he just got up again. So it's like, all right, so
it's really interesting. I actually kind of want to go back and rewatch Kills now, or like rewatch it as a trilogy,
yeah,
maybe just because now I see the whole picture. it's a really interesting movie that like
like I said, I
I don't
enjoy
know.
kills. I mean, it also goes to the fact that we don't, as human beings, we're kind of advert to change. We don't necessarily want things to end, but it's also bittersweet because some things need to end. Like Myers and
Yeah.
Lloyd, they're old. They're old people. How many more movies do you think you're going to squeeze out of them? They're going to be just like in a wheelchair chasing each other, trying to stab each other. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
it has to end at some point. So realistically, it does need to end. I mean, obviously, as viewers, we want to kind of see them battle to the end of time, but it's like, come on, man, both need to die, or they, at the very least, if this was a realistic aspect, move on. Like, because if it's going to get supernatural, I would imagine, just being logical, I would imagine in a horror movie setting, they're old, their story needs to end, but people still want Halloween movies. So I assume they're going to transfer the evil of Michael maybe into another character to kind of keep his essence going, maybe in another serial killer. But at the same time, that kind of begs the question, well, why don't you start like a brand new like franchise? Okay, well, it could be like a new Halloween franchise because Myers and Laurie's story like ended. Now you can keep it going, but just with different people. If that's something people want. I mean, people may hate that. I don't know.
I mean, John Carpenter originally wanted it to be an anthology show or an anthology movie series. That's why it was called Halloween.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, every movie is supposed to be a totally different story, but everyone liked Michael Myers, so he made the second one, and that's why the third one is totally different story completely, because he's like, I don't want to just keep doing Michael Myers movies. And then that one didn't do as well, so then they went back to the Myers movies.
Yeah, I will say,
But-
did it bother you, the original old Halloween movies? Because the second one was a complete deviation with the mass and the children. Did that movie bother you? Because I
didn't really
enjoyed it.
like it, but I watched it out of context of the rest of them. I wasn't really a big Halloween fan and hadn't really watched them. I don't think I even saw the second movie.
I was
So-
very confused when I watched it because I was like, oh my God, the second Halloween film. And I watched it and I'm like, this has nothing to do with Michael Myers. It's like a corporation making masks, and these two people are trying to like, expose them and take them down. Like, oh my God, these masks are going to kill people. Because what was it? It was like, it was a broadcast that like activated this chip inside the mask and it like melted the heads. And
Yeah.
like, worms came out. I'm like, what? I was like, this
weird
is so silly. I was like, what is the point of them killing a bunch of kids wearing this mask? Like, what is the end goal? But it was a very bizarre movie.
Very weird movie, yes.
And then
I'll say that it follows that structure, the Halloween movies, because like the first one is the first one,
right, great.
Halloween, and then the second movie in the new trilogy takes place the same night in the hospital, same as the original second Halloween movie, right? And
the
then
second one was with the children in the mask.
no, the second one, that's the third one.
That's the third one.
Yeah, the second one is
Evil Corporation. Okay, I really thought that was the second one.
No, yeah, it's Halloween 3. The second one takes place the same night. It's the exact same story structure. So you have Halloween on Halloween night. Halloween in the entire movie takes place in a hospital, same as Halloween Kills for the most part. And then the third movie, I'll just say it starts with the blue logo from the third movie of the original third movie, Season of the Witch. So that it's not what you expected. Like, however you thought that they would end the Halloween trilogy, it's not the direction they go in.
And when we say trilogy, we're essentially talking about Myers and Laurie. That's essentially what we mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you could really call it a quadrilogy if you count original Halloween and then Halloween 18, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, it's out. I need to watch it. I'll go down that rabbit hole and kind of see what the fuss is about.
Yeah, I think it's free streaming on Peacock. Maybe not free, but
well, this is the internet. I can find a free copy.
Yeah.
Goodness sake.
That does remind me that I know. Sorry, we should move on to a different topic. It reminds me. It's really interesting to see how Scream and Halloween have this problem, but like movies like The Leprechaun, I'm sure The Terrifier, Friday the 13th, those movies don't have the problem of having to continue the story outside of the franchise character, because there are no final girls past like the first movie, maybe second movie. So like Scream and Halloween, they're constantly following Sidney Prescott and Laurie Strode, right? So they had to end those because those characters are getting old themselves, whereas the monsters, they're wearing a mask so they can live forever, essentially. So like Halloween, or no, I'm sorry, Friday 13th, he just puts someone else in a mask, right? And then he kills everybody at one point or another, so then it's like a wash, so they can restart it, and it's a different, they're introducing new characters every movie. I think that's really interesting, and I wonder if they're going to start pivoting back to that sort of storytelling.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is a slight difference because with Friday the 13th, you have Jason Voorhees. It's always going to be him. Supernatural, it's going to be him killing. But then with Scream, it's like, okay, these are regular people. And when you kill whoever is under a ghost face mask, the next movie is just going to be somebody else in that mask. And it's always going to be a whodunit of like, okay, who's in the mask this time because we killed the other guy. So they can keep utilizing those movies. They can just literally put a different person in the mask and try to explain why this person is doing what it is they're doing.
But the auxiliary characters, like the Sidney Prescotts and the Laurie Strodes, they're not. They can't live forever, like quote unquote. They can't be resurrected into different iterations.
Right.
They're their character, so they have to end those plot lines because.
And then they go the cheesy route of like, oh, now it's her daughter or it's her cousin or it's always someone related to the original character somehow.
Yeah, usually.
And it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it seems like we can always go down a rabbit hole when it comes to horror films.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, it's good. It's always good to talk about. It's always something intriguing. It's always something people love hearing about too. I noticed people just love horror films. I've never really been one to be scared. That's not really why I watch horror films. I just watch them just for the sheer interest. But I've never been that person like who has that like adrenaline run. Like, man, I need to feel something. I need to feel terror. I need to feel scared. I need to feel some type of exhilaration. It's like, no, for me, I'm just watching a movie and it just happens to be horror.
Yeah, I mean, most of them are kind of like that. Really, modern horror is just a lot of loud noises after a lot of quiet noises. But it is what it is. I digress.
Yeah. Honestly, horror films could be a whole podcast itself.
I know. Maybe we can pivot to that, 10 episodes in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what people want to hear every episode, but it's like, it's always a juicy topic that can just lead into other things. But if we're going to pivot topics, because we had brought this up, I think, in the last podcast we did together. But finally, Westworld's been canceled. Thank God.
Yeah, bittersweet. I say as a person who didn't watch anything past the first season, so I don't really know.
The first 2 seasons were amazing. The 3rd season was garbage doo-doo butter, and now they just released the 4th season, which I heard from one person, so I don't know how valid this is, but I heard from one person that it was getting back on track to being good again. But for me personally, you already lost me, and you probably lost a lot of viewers with that god awful 3rd season. So it's like, why would I want to come back and reinvest my time into a 4th season, even if it's potentially back on track? I don't want to do that. And now to add insult to injury, now it's just been canceled outright because I assume because the 3rd season was so bad. Now I did hear that the producers and whatnot, they said they wanted to end the story with 5 seasons, which to be fair, 5 is a good number. I believe any show that goes past 5 seasons is just garbage. You can only do so much before you kind of start watering things down and things start not making sense and you start making stuff up. That's just my personal opinion on any show going on for an extended period of time. So it does suck to hear that, hey, their vision will never be finished because they wanted to end it on the 5th season. I don't know how they were wanting to end it, but season 3 really turned me off. I was like, this is just not good.
Yeah, that's a shame. The first season was really good. But yeah, I've heard that it just kind of consistently went downhill, not only with the quality of the show, but the people watching it. So it would have been really nice to have the one more season to finish the plot line, but I don't know if it's something that would have even come to a satisfying conclusion anyway with one more season. You know,
if you ever have the time and if you ever feel like it, I would highly recommend watching the second season because it obviously picks up after the first season and things get even more crazy from there. But then after that, I would probably just stop there after the second season. Like, okay, this is a good ending because the third season was just it was bad.
The first season can kind of be its own standalone sort of plot if you just stop there, right? Yeah. I can't remember.
Well, because the first season,
there's a couple of loose ends, but it kind of wraps up some stuff.
Because the first season ends with Homeboy waking all the robots up. He's like, "Hey, you're all awake now. You don't have to get rebooted anymore." And then it's like, "Oh my God, they're awake now." And then so it's like you could end it there, but that's like a big cliffhanger. It's like because you're like, "What's going to happen next?" Now that they're all awake and can make their own decisions.
Yeah,
but yeah,
does it ever go to like the Yul Brenner, the original Westworld, where it's like they start murdering people a lot? Does it go into that horror style thing, even though it's not really a horror? But
well, yeah, because now that they're awake, they can make their own decisions, and they're just like, "Oh my God, like y'all have been doing stuff to us." So yeah, it's really terrifying in that aspect because it's like, oh my God, they realize what we've been doing to them for however long that universe has been going on, however many years they've had robots. Because, like he said, he's like, when I made these robots, this wasn't what I intended. I wanted everyone to have fun, go on little adventures, but people immediately perverted it into just sex and torture. So it's just like, this is not what I wanted. So you get what you deserve. I'm waking everybody up so they can have their lives. And the second season kind of picks up on that of like, okay, what do the robots want to do now that they're awake? And, there's an end goal by the season finale.
Interesting.
But then season 3 just, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It just like, I feel like they just wanted to keep going because it literally could have ended on season 2. That was a good ending, the way season 2 ended.
Interesting. All right. I'll give it a shot at some point.
Yeah. And then in other juicy news, Henry Cavill and The Witcher.
Yeah, that's such a bummer.
Yeah, well, I try not to think of it as a bummer. And I say that based on the fact that we could potentially, we may not, but we could potentially get a wrap-up ending story. We could have like a trilogy wrap-up to Henry Cavill's character as Geralt, if it's done right. And then if he, leaves after season 3, which he does leave, but I would be satisfied. But the problem is we don't know how season 3 is going to go. So I really hope they wrap up his story, have him ride off in the sunset so they can make way for Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah, but Liam Hemsworth is playing Geralt, whatever his name is.
In season 4. So yeah, because season 3 is already done. So I really hope they like have a nice little bow on the season's finale of 3 where he kind of goes off and does his own thing so that they can make way for Homeboy in season 4. Because it would really suck if they just like were all casual with the season finale, like, cool, let's go on our next adventure. This is great, and then out of nowhere, bam, season 4, we've got new guys. So I really hope they at least try to wrap up.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Oh man!
Because why would they sunset the character and then bring him back as a different person?
Well, not sunset the character, but at least, make it seem like, hey,
like a self-aware, like by Henry Cavill.
Yeah, like, hey, because we're getting ready because the season 4, I assume, is going to go a completely different direction, or they may screw up season 3 and just do a completely different direction. We don't really know. So all we know is that Henry Cavill and the producers were having mild beef with each other because they had different visions about where they wanted to take the show. Henry Cavill wanted to stick with the source material, and the producers like, no, we want to do something original, which is hit or miss. I'm sure you could fall into either category. It just really kind of depends. But
I really think him leaving is more of an indicator or a commentary on what the next season is going to be. I didn't finish the second season. Yeah, man, there's too many
There's
TV
so
shows
many,
now.
bro.
I watch a stupid amount of movies and TV shows, and I can't keep up anymore. But
It is a saturated market, but which is kind of exciting if you like me. I pick and choose. I'm like, I'm only gonna watch the best stuff. If something is getting horrible reviews, with the exception of like the Halloween movie, I will, make time for that, or I'll choose not to make time because everyone has limited time. Everyone's busy, so it's like you don't want
yeah,
to waste your time watching something that's garbage. So that's why I always do like a little light research before I, go into watching something. I'm like, all right, is this going to be worth X amount of hours that I don't have
yeah.
or not?
Well, I read. I think I have a couple of the Witcher books, and I've read one of them at least. Uh, I don't know. I just don't think. I don't think it's going to be the same without Henry Cavill. They should have just ended it.
Right.
They should have filmed like something else and then been like, that's the end of that.
Well, you
Well,
can't.
maybe we can
Yeah. You
spin
don't
it off with Liam Hemsworth as a different Witcher character, and then maybe use some of the stories from the book or do whatever they wanted to do where it didn't follow the source material, but just don't make him Geralt. Make him.
Well, the problem with the industry is you don't want to kill a cash cow. So it's like, oh, we're gonna milk this dry. We're gonna milk it until people hate it
Yeah, but
because it's a very popular show. But part
the
of
good
that is
thing of
because of Henry Cavill.
yes, but the good thing about the title of The Witcher is that there are multiple Witchers, right?
Yes. Yes.
So they could literally, instead of being like, oh, he's being completely character changed, what is it called? Like when they replace him, they're just gonna be like, okay, this is a new, this show's still called The Witcher, but this is a different Witcher now. We're following a different person.
I honestly
And
feel like that would be better considering the producers want to quote unquote do their
yeah,
own original thing than make an own
uh,
original Witcher then. Yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. There you go.
But I
That
feel like
that
they're just
literally
gonna do
gives you.
Geralt.
That's literally they can you get an out to do whatever you want because it's a
Exactly.
character that no one's ever heard of, so no, they won't be like, Geralt's never done that before.
Clean slate.
You're like, well, this is Liam, so
Yeah. But I have a feeling I think they already said they're going to continue Geralt, which in this
huge
regard,
mistake.
yeah, that doesn't make sense. It's like if you guys want to do something original, then why are you still using Geralt? Well, because he's the cash cow, he's the main character. It's like yes, but you guys want to do something different, so you can't backtrack and be like, oh, we want to use the same character, but at the same time we want to change everything up. It's like, well, then just do a different character, just do something. You have the IP, you can do that.
Yeah,
Just but
just change it, change the
yeah.
character. It's
It,
fine.
I'm choosing to be optimistic in the regards that they could possibly do a good season 3 and wrap up Henry Cavill's version or vision at least because he wanted to stick with the source material and they did not, and it could very well end on some nonsense. But I'm choosing at this moment. I'm like, I'm going to be optimistic. Hopefully they wrap up his version and then move on to some crazy whatever stuff in season 4. But they might have a blend of of both worlds, and that may not
Yeah,
translate well.
I can totally understand not wanting to stick exactly to the source material,
Hmm.
but I also feel like if you have an actor who begged to be on that show in the first place, like literally campaigned for himself to be the Witcher, is commonly known as a super nerd, can quote things from the book while you're filming the show. Just go with what he wants to do.
Well, and
He
like
probably
yeah,
knows a little bit more about the character and at least what would make the fans happy.
a
It's
little,
fine to
yeah. He's a nerd. He read
deviate.
the books.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he knows all of the, he knows the lines, he knows the characters very well. And clearly the writers didn't. Like they were saying that they would like make fun of the Witcher franchise because they didn't actually care about it. They were just, it's just a job for them.
Man, I
Just,
I love that
it's
Henry Cavill is a nerd. I'm like, it's I don't know, something about a celebrity just like openly admitting like, yeah, I love a badass PC. I love playing World of Warcraft. He likes nerdy stuff, you know.
yeah. Joe Manganiello and Henry Cavill carrying it for all the nerds right now.
Yeah, and, it's like 'cause
I,
I know women like, oh my god, he's such a heartthrob. He's such a this great man, and it's like behind closed doors, he likes nerdy shit like video games. It's not just working
I
out and reading poetry. Women like,
I was watching an interview or like a clip of interview on Twitter where he was doing some sort of, I think he was doing a interview for Enola Holmes 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And the interviewer was like, all right, first question. What Warhammer 40k army would Sherlock Holmes use? And he was like, oh, that's such a good question. He got like really excited.
Heck yeah.
And then, have you seen that clip?
No,
And then
that sounds awesome.
so he's just like sitting there for like 3 minutes, like thinking. And he's like, oh, it could be, I don't know anything about Warhammer 40k. He's like, it could be this army. Because like they use a lot of dexterity, and he's like actually thinking really hard about the question. And he's like, oh, it could be this army because I know that they are really complex to use, but I haven't read their codex yet. Do you know? And he asked the interviewer, and the interviewer's like, oh, I don't know anything about Warhammer 40k. My friend told me to ask you. And then he immediately goes, oh, okay.
Well,
I guess this one then. Is your friend here? And like asks to talk to the friend that asked the question.
I love that. He's like, your friend is already cooler than you. I mean, you gotta understand, the celebrities, they get asked the same jackassy questions over and over and over.
It's super annoying.
It's the same. But I mean, it's not the interviewer's fault. It's just like, look, man, but you need to realize you're not the only interviewer asking him this question. There's 50 other interviewers asking the exact same question. What's it like working with so-and-so? You know, it's
what's your diet plan?
It's just like, oh my God. That's kind of why I love Hot Ones with Sean Evans, because he'll do his research and ask like legitimate questions that aren't just the typical questions, which is why people love going on his show. They're like, oh my God, you ask such insightful questions that isn't just the same stuff that we're asked all day. But yeah, I can just imagine Henry Cavill's excitement to get like a legitimate question, and then at the same time I imagine his disappointment where he's just like, oh, I don't know, just my friend wanted me to ask that. It's like, God dang it, like you got me all excited. Is your friend here?
At the beginning he was like, that's such a good question, and then just
because it really changes the dynamic of the interview, because now you've got this celebrity who's excited. He's like, oh my God, I'm really excited to talk to you. But then to find out, like, oh, that's the only question I had. It's like, oh, well, dang it.
Yeah, and now you're going to ask me stupid questions about...
What was the funniest on-set thing that happened? It's like, I don't know.
What's it like working with actor A? They're fine.
And it's like, they're great. They're really nice. And I enjoy working with them. Next question.
Yeah. This is a job, right? I'm going to answer it like it's a job.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
What's it like working with your manager at work? Well, I haven't killed them. They're very nice. They pay me.
What was the hardest scene to film? I don't know. Probably the sex scene that nobody wanted to do. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a scene where I'm underwater and it's cold on set.
Yeah, and I got to just sit there in the freezing water for hours while we shoot the scene over and over. Yeah, that's
pretty basic.
Yeah, I sometimes have to explain that to people when we're kind of watching interviews or seeing celebrities and do things, and I'm like, these are people. You got to put yourself in their shoes. They're being asked the same stuff constantly. They got to smile for 8 hours answering the same questions over and over.
Yeah, it's 100 interviews, and they're all asking the exact same question.
And they're tired and they're hungry, and they got to sit in this room all day with no snacks.
Because every outlet needs, some version of that answer because, so they can put it in their magazine.
Yeah. Anytime I mean, Sean Evans really changed the game for me. Anytime I watch celebrities do interviews on movies or something, I'm always looking for that one guy who asked them like a non-jackassy question, but it's very hard to find because they're all so basic. It's just like, okay. That sucks.
Yeah. Hot Ones is pretty great. I've only seen a couple. I usually go through a phase where I'll watch like 10 of them, and then I'll stop watching for a little bit. But yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, shout out to that show. I try to order some hot sauce, every so often, every time they change the lineup and try them out, just kind of expand the taste. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are just like, man, I don't like this one, but some of them are actually pretty tasty.
Interesting. I might have to check that out. I do love hot sauce.
Yeah. I use the Last Dab when I'm cooking certain foods. Like if I cook turkey, I'll use the Last Dab sauce while I'm baking the turkey, and it'll give it like a spicy kick. I cannot do the Last Dab like just like as a sauce, like just pouring it on something and biting it. That pepper just sits in my stomach. I'm like, I don't like this. But if I cook it with something, it's great. But if I just like eat it regular, I'm like, no, that just it doesn't work with me.
Okay. Yeah, I usually just use Tabasco or what's the chihila? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, I don't know the name of that sauce, but yeah, that typical sauce that's like everywhere.
Yeah, there's one. You know what? I'm not even going to go into it because I don't know the name of it. I'll do my research and we can talk about hot sauce next week.
We have a whole hot sauce episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to order some more. The lineup they have this season looks pretty interesting. You know, especially it's kind of like that wow factor when you see people eat it and they're just like, oh my god, this is so good, and it's just like, dang it, this is like, what do you call that? Advertising marketing. It's just like, oh my god, them making it look like it's fun makes me want to try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shameful. Oh well, it works. But anyway, yeah, goodbye Westworld, you know, whatever. Henry Cavill. I had a bit, I don't know if it was the last podcast or the podcast before, where I was kind of ranting. I was like, you know, it's because of Henry Cavill that any of y'all even have jobs, because from my understanding, it was his idea to pitch to Netflix, like to make a Witcher show.
Yeah.
So I'm like, y'all wouldn't even have jobs if it wasn't for him. So the fact that y'all like arguing with him about how the show should be run, it kind of makes me mad. I'm like, you know, if he didn't bring this up to Netflix, y'all never would have even made the show in the first place.
Yeah, super disrespectful. Yeah. Just, you know, just
they're the producers. I'm like, I understand they're the ones in charge, but he like put them there in the first place.
Yeah, it's like maybe you think you can do better than whatever it is.
That's fine.
But at least we know that Henry Cavill is a fan and he would make like no matter how much better you think you could make the show, there's a risk of it not being as good because you're deviating too far away. Whereas Henry Cavill could at least make it decent because he knows the source material well enough to do that, you know? It's like you give a character like I don't know, Dragon Ball Z, I guess. I'm literally staring at a little Goku figurine. And then you'd make a movie out of that, right? And you have people that think they know how to do the character really well, and then you have like someone like Akira Toriyama or something, like someone who knows the characters.
Yeah.
And who are you going to go with? Like, yeah, Akira Toriyama doesn't do movies, you know, in that way, but I'm sure he has a better understanding and baseline of who the characters are and knows how to make a great plot or knows what would make sense to the character, as opposed to like a bunch of people that have no idea what the hell's happening. It's like I guess a better example would be Game of Thrones. You have those two guys, D&D, right, who were literally, the first couple seasons were amazing because they were following the source material and they were following their resources in the book. And then when they ran out of that, they're like, well, we got it, it's fine. And look how that turned out. You know, they maybe have thought that they could do better because they're creatives, but it clearly, whatever they concocted and thought that they knew better than George R. R. Martin was wrong. And I think a lot of the cast members were even like, this doesn't make sense for these characters. And like, I know that the guy who played Viserys, the eunuch guy, he was really upset because he read the books. He was like a big fan. And like every season he got pushed further and further into the background just as like he was like the, you know, the master of shadows or secrets or whispers or some shit, right?
He was the bald one, right?
Yeah.
And
then the master of secrets or something, he had like all these little spies and stuff. And then by the end of the show, he's just like wandering around being like, yeah, I'm just a messenger. Like people just tell me stuff and that's really about it. And the actor was getting really upset because he's like, that's not who this character is. Like, this character is supposed to be a bigger threat. He's the master of secrets, and you just have him doing nothing. And
they really played it.
They're like
on Littlefinger, and I'm like, I thought like him and Littlefinger were like kind of like equals in their respective, you know, traits of like knowing secrets and, you know, espionage and whatnot. But then like they focused on Littlefinger and they downplayed the other guy. And he
And
was
then like
yeah, he was pushed to the background.
yeah, and then he was really upset because the books, that's not how it happens in the books. And then, by the end, he was just like, I don't care anymore. It's whatever.
He's like, I follow Tyrion around and I just talk to him. That's all I do.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
we
that
just
kind of
we just make
sucks.
fun of each other over and over again. That's my whole plot.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks.
So, so I totally understand how Henry Cavill, if they're doing that, he also complained. He was like, you don't give me anything to say. I just go "Meh," and
Yeah.
say fuck.
Because
Like
in the
the
books, he has
character's
a
not
lot
like
of inner
that in the book.
monologues.
Yeah, so like let's make him a character. We don't have to follow the video game. The video game isn't the source material. He talks
Right.
a lot in the book. He's
Yeah.
stoic, but he has a lot to say, and they're just like, nah, it's funnier this way, man. People love it when you don't say anything.
Yeah, just grunt
He's
all
like,
the time.
yeah, they're like, you know your Superman performance? Do that. Just do that. Don't say anything.
Oh my goodness. I'm with that being said, I am interested to see him come back as Superman now that we've got well, oh my god, I can't think of his name.
James Gunn.
James Gunn, yes, because he makes some fun movies, and Henry Cavill seems excited, like, oh cool, I get to work with a director who wants to do something fun and not like dark and serious. So that's going to be interesting. So it does suck
Funny
he's leaving
thing-
Witcher, but I am curious to see him as Superman again.
The funny thing is, well, James Gunn does a lot of dark and serious shit, but he masks it with really dark humor on top of it, which I love. Like his older movies pre Marvel are so fun. If you ever seen Super, highly recommend that movie. It has the guy who plays Dwight from The Office.
Oh,
And,
yes,
and
I
Ellen
did see
Page,
Super. That was
Kevin Bacon.
that's a dark comedy.
Yeah, that's a great. I hope he pulls. I mean, that's kind of what it's like, a continuation, or almost like a, what is it? A Peacemaker is kind of a continuation of that style of darkness and humor and silliness in a character that just is so off the wall stupid.
Yeah, and flawed.
Yeah, I feel like Super was like a great audition for to showcase like what Peacemaker became. But yeah, I really hope it's good. I hope, honestly, DC just whatever. James Gunn couldn't do any worse than whatever they're doing. I really think he should. I think he should just get rid of Ezra Miller. I think he should get rid of, I don't know, everyone else. I don't know if we really need The Rock in there. I guess that's probably going to stay. He's just going to let The Rock do his own thing.
I don't know how much power he's going to have because he's going to be runner with someone else. So I
feel like he has
he's
a lot.
going to be like he's like half of Kevin Feige, I guess.
Yeah, but he's also like really. I mean, he's the only one that's done anything successful. He has a great track record so far, especially with DC. With their failure of the original Suicide Squad, which I don't necessarily totally put on David Ayer, but and then to go from that to like an awesome kick-ass Suicide Squad movie, which they should have put in theaters, but they didn't. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they have a lot of confidence in him, and then the narrative of like him doing Guardians of the Galaxy and Peacemaker and making those all really wonderful, despite the fact that on paper for corporate suits that sort of thing would never work. None of those IPs.
Right.
So but he made him work, so I think that he's a good person to kind of to get that going. I'm bummed that he's not in actually I'm not bummed that he's not Marvel. Marvel can suck it.
Well,
but
he's done enough. He this is going to be his
Yeah.
third and final Guardians film.
yeah,
So yeah, let him let the man move
let him
on.
do something. Yeah, I would love to see him go back to original filmmaking. Honestly, I don't think he directed it, but Brightburn was so fun.
Yeah,
It wasn't the best movie in the world,
Right,
but it was
yeah.
so fun.
It's like, what's the horror version of Superman? It's like, what if he was just a psychotic child and like, because literally, who would stop him? No one.
Yeah, I loved that. And I don't know if he wrote. I think he wrote that, but didn't direct it. I don't recall off the top of my head. But if he can, I mean, even in that movie, he managed to pull more of what makes Superman a Superman than the Zack Snyder Superman.
The Man of Steel.
Yeah, I mean, Man of Steel is fine, but like, there's just so much more interesting stuff, and even Brightburn's version of Superman.
Yeah,
That
that's probably why Henry Cavill was excited. Is like finally, like we can go in a direction of Superman that's just like not what Snyder was doing.
yeah,
So I'm stoked to see what happens with that. I mean, Henry Cavill's career will be fine. I know we're bummed about The Witcher, but we haven't even got season 3 yet. So let alone season 4. I don't even know if they've even started recording season 4.
yeah. I'm sure they haven't. They're probably gonna wait to see how season 3 goes, and yeah, they might have the cast Liam Hemsworth to just be like, see, look, guys, we've got this. It's okay, because it was going to come out eventually. But I bet they're waiting to see the reaction of season 3, and then if it's bad, they'll just be like, "Nah, we're good." Because if it's a bad season, there's no way in hell they're going to be like, "All right, now we're going to just totally new character completely," which no one wants, or recast.
I mean,
Let's do it
as long as they don't do Geralt again, like that's what we're saying. Just like if you want to do something original, just make a new Witcher. There's a bunch of them. God,
I honestly think is it Vesemir, which is his friend. I feel like they could just do a Witcher prequel with Vesemir.
I think,
and then have Liam.
That's the guy that trained him, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they did a prequel with Liam Hemsworth as Vesemir, that would be pretty cool. I would watch that.
I don't blame Henry Cavill. He's had his fun. He's like, you know what? I had 3 good seasons. I made the show very popular. I'm good. I feel fulfilled. I can do something else now.
I do feel bad for Henry Cavill because I feel like he's a really talented actor. He's done a lot of fun stuff, but I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Like, he's mostly been a TV actor.
Yeah.
But like, he did Mission Impossible, and like, he was like the breakout star of that movie. But never, I mean, I don't think he was really in anything else after that. And then he got to play Superman, and then they're like, "You're Superman, you get 1 movie, and then the next movies, you're not going to say," he had like 15 lines.
Yeah. And
Justice League and Batman, Superman. It's just like, why are you doing this to him? He's a good actor.
Who hurt you? It's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
It feels like
he's a good actor. He's so charming. Just let him do something.
He's a good actor, and he's being underutilized. It's like, does no one want to take advantage of this man's talents? I'm like,
yeah, he's super buff. He was really hot, and he's a charming person. Just watch an interview when he's not acting. Let him be a charming Superman. Why you gotta make him so fucking depressed?
Do y'all want him to be like old and overweight and not in shape and not beautiful, and then like, hey, let's use Henry Cavill for some stuff? It's like, oh, okay, well now he's not, hot anymore. I don't know. It's just like, yeah. I wonder what his schedule is like. I wonder what meetings with his manager is like, because he has to have stuff on his plate. Like he did Enola Holmes or whatever. He has work. But I wonder, like, what is his personal opinion on, like, his catalog? Or it's like, I'm sure there's things he wants to do, but he's unfortunately doing other things.
I think he would be, if I were him, I would be sorely disappointed because let's look at it. 2 Enola Holmes movies, direct to Netflix. Then you got The Tudors TV show, Witcher TV show, Batman, Superman,
Man of Steel.
Says nothing. He got 1 movie, and then for 10 years, got no lines, 15 minutes of screen time. Then Mission Impossible, you got to play a really awesome, very interesting character. Had a viral moment come out of that. What is he doing now? What movie did he get to star in since then?
It is disappointing because he wanted to do The Witcher so bad and he got to do it, but then he was met with pushback from the producers, and it's like, man, can y'all just let the man? I wonder if there's like any like nerdy projects he wants to do besides Witcher, like where people just won't bother him and he can just like do it and have fun with it.
Yeah,
I mean, even with Man of Steel, I'm sure Snyder was like, hey, you got to stop smiling so much, and he's like, really? Can you imagine? Telling Superman to stop smiling so much. This is you're upset. People are looking at you like a freak. They misunderstand you, and it's like, can Superman like not smile once? It's like, God, jeez.
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's really depressing. I mean, I know he can do like a lot of like he does a lot of like fantasy slash medieval style TV show or movies,
Yeah.
but it's just like give the man a break. Let him be a James Bond style character. Like, I mean, he did the Man with Uncle with Army Hammer, which was stupid. That guy's crazy, but I don't know. Like I feel like he does really good work, and he's usually well received in everything that he does. As far as like more recent stuff, but they won't give him like a leading role,
Yeah.
even though he has everything that makes like they keep making Army Hammer try to be a leading role, even though he's a weird sex cannibal. But but they can't give Henry Cavill, or extremely charming, extremely like well put together person that has a lot of fun quirks and has a huge fan base. They can't give him a starring leading role in anything that's like a big movie, but The Rock can do the same character 18 million times in a jungle. Just like, come on.
Yeah, it's definitely wild to be sure. I would say, like, if the internet could band together, I don't know, if we get a petition, something going, get a movement going, like, give Henry Cavill some power. Let the man do what he wants. I want to know personally, Henry Cavill, if you're out there, if you're listening to this podcast, tell me, man, 1-to-1, man-to-man, what do you want? What do you want? What would make you happy? Or are you perfectly content with your career? Because I feel like you could be doing a lot more, and I feel like you want to do more if you were just given the opportunity. Like, make a statement to the internet, make a video statement, say, hey, this is what I want. In a perfect world, this is what I want to do with my career. Bro, we can make it happen. We could get a movement going.
He's mentioned like he wanted to do a Mass Effect TV show, like to be Commander Shepard. That would be so awesome. I'd love to see that. I feel like he could do he could bring a lot of amazing fantasy that hasn't been put to film yet, because of nerd stuff, like being a Warhammer 40K movie. Make that happen. Or I don't know, Stephen King Dark Tower. Maybe he probably have to lose some weight there for some muscle mass, but like, or something from Brandon Sanderson's fantasy, like Stormlight Archive. Just let him do whatever he wants, because he knows that stuff, and just
he's earned it. He deserves it, man. Just let him. You have all these other celebrity actors, whatever, doing all these crazy things, but they won't let him do something. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I think that was one of the conditions to him coming back as Superman, is like, let me have partial creative control over the direction of the character. And like, I saw a couple interviews where he was like, yeah, I want to be Superman that inspires hope.
Yes.
And he's supposed to be the best of people.
Yes.
And show, because he's a reflection of that. That's what his whole idea is, that he came from nowhere, or outer space, and became an amalgamation of the best of people and what they could aspire to be. And then he hasn't done. So he's like, that's what I want to be if I'm going to be Superman again. I'm not doing this other shit again.
Not everybody needs to be dark and brooding Batman.
We don't.
All the TV shows and movies, they just want to copy Batman. Everyone has to be dark and brooding. I'm like, it works with Batman. Literally, everyone else does not need to do that. That's so irritating that they make every character a reflection off of Bruce Wayne. I'm like, that doesn't work. Not everybody is sad and brooding. That doesn't make sense for Superman to be sad and brooding. It doesn't work.
It's a fundamental not understanding of the characters. Like, if you listen to any interview about Superman from DC, that's not like the animated, side of it. They're just like, oh, he's so stupid. Like, he's got the underwear on the outside. He's got a cape. Like, how do we make Superman interesting is always the question. It's like, just let him be Superman and just tell good stories. Yeah. Maybe bring in good villains. Batman, honestly, to me, he's a great character, but the thing that makes the Batman movies work are the villains.
The rogues gallery.
Because, if there's no interesting villains, or the villains are weak, then the Batman movies aren't as good, because Batman is the same character over and over and over again. He's a brooding character that you bounce these weird off the wall weirdo rogues galleries off of, and there's a great there's a great sense of dynamics in that, having a guy who only stays in the dark, and then you have these crazy colorful characters like a clown,
Or the
so
Riddler,
make it
yeah.
yeah, make it happen with Superman. Superman's a similar idea. He's a very stoic, like peaceful person who just wants the best and shows the best of humanity. So, test him with that, like you did in Man of Steel. Give him interesting, crazy characters. Maybe throw in Brainiac, who has no humanity. How would that play out? Extremely interestingly. Like, what? I wrote you a movie just now. Just
Hey man, give us jobs.
yeah, it's ridiculous that they can't figure this out. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's they look at numbers and they look at what they think people want, and it just doesn't work. It's like, no, people don't want, source material. They want like fun stuff. They want shirtless men. They want the latest TikTok trend. It's like, okay, you're looking at numbers on a graph or a poll or statistics, and it's like that's not going to translate to a good product.
Yeah.
But
to me,
whatever.
they should redo a Man of Steel trilogy, like as if the first one didn't happen. Like include it kind of like what they did with Halloween, where it's like, all right, this is the baseline Halloween one from the 80s or 70s, and now we're going to do a trilogy of 18 Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, but it's based off of that first one. So they need to do a new trilogy, and they need to do a movie with a character like Brainiac that has no humanity, that will test his humanity in a different way. Then they need to do a Doomsday. Oh, they already did that. They fucked it up already. They need to do a Bizarro Superman, where he has to have his ideas warped and reflected back at him.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And then maybe another one with either a Doomsday style character, probably Doomsday himself, since they never did that actually. Or what's the weirdo character, the Starfish? Did they already do that one?
Yeah, they did Starro in the Suicide Squad. Remember?
Is that the one that in the cartoon that like sucks onto them and like they have dreams about what their life could be like?
No, Starro's just like the parasite. He literally puts the starfish on their face and he just mind controls them because they're like a hive mind.
Mm.
Which is what they did, yeah, in Suicide Squad.
Then I guess I would say they should do a Lex Luthor movie next, maybe without
a good Lex Luthor, not Jesse Eisenberg.
Lex Luthor Jr. Minus Jesse Eisenberg, and then I think they could do Brainiac, Bizarro. That would all be interesting. If they really wanted to, it'd be fun to see a Lobo show up.
Oh, that'd be good. Supergirl.
Supergirl would be great for a third
movie. He's teaching her how to be a super person and how to live on Earth.
Mm-hmm. That would be pretty awesome.
or just bring out the best thing that's ever come out of Superman and bring out Jonathan Kent. Literally, father and son. He's teaching his son how to be a human and also how to use his superpowers. But most of the time, he's just teaching him how to live on Earth and be a human, and it's just it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. They could do a Metallo. Metallo would be fun.
Yeah,
I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see a movie where Superman is teaching Supergirl, his ideals, but then they have to fight a Bizarro or something like that.
Or Brainiac, yeah, that would work.
Yeah, a Brainiac or Bizarro, where it's like these are your ideas, thrown at you in a different way, or like him trying to teach her all of these values, but then like Lex Luthor's over here being like a terrible human, and then she's like, well, I don't, this sucks. I don't know, there's a lot they could do, and there's a lot of interesting characters that they could make.
There's so many, but I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen with Warner Brothers Discovery now that all of their projects have been axed. The Black Adam movie has not brought in as much money as they wanted. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Now that they have James Gunn and the other guy, I know Discovery is going to be a little more lenient with the funds on what they can make, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, everything Warner Brothers was doing was wrong, so hopefully Discovery can hire
Yeah.
the correct people. James Gunn
James,
was a good start.
yeah, James Gunn seems to really love like really obscure characters. You know, bringing in Peacemaker and making a show about him and like all the characters that he brought in. So I'm excited to see. You know, maybe we'll get a Mr. Miplixik. I don't know how to say him.
Mixel
Yeah, maybe we'll get one of those guys coming in. We'll probably get a Brainiac in there. Who knows? It's going to be wonderful. I'm excited to see how he turns it around.
Yeah. Well, man, we pretty much covered it this week.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
pretty much went over. What did we go over this week? We went over horror and we talked about the animals, horror, and then we got into Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had some good topics this week. This was fun. We got into some good stuff here.
Yeah. I know I was only gone a week, but this was fun. I missed it.
Yeah, man, we're passionate about things that we enjoy, and we're bringing that to you guys through this podcast. So hopefully you enjoy it too. Hopefully you have your own opinions and feedback you wanna leave us in the comments below. But my God, yeah, we could definitely go on about some stuff, especially when it comes
This
to nerdy
could be
stuff.
another. It could be another 2 hours.
It's literally anything horror, or anything nerdy, we could just go on like all day about. But
Yeah.
alas, we're out of time. Oh, goodness.
Right, Warner Brothers, Netflix, please reach out if you need any more ideas.
Yeah, give Henry Cavill give him creative control. Let him have some power. Let him run.
Yeah,
something.
give him 40 million to make a Warhammer movie. I don't even play that game, but I want to see it.
He's like, look, I just need a producer that will listen to my input. He's like,
Yeah.
he can direct the movie, but just let me have my 2 cents. I know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, people. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Humans Talking podcast episode. Brylan, you have any final words for the viewers? Any shout outs you want to make?
No, glad to be back. Hope you guys have a good week and see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week on Humans Talking. Later.